dividing is not very fun. So a lot of you, when you're first doing this, you're probably going to want to use the x and y method. So let's look at secant. Secant I could rewrite as 1 over x divided by x. Right? And I like this method because I like using the x's, especially with fractions, because it just reminds you what we do when we're dividing with fractions. When you're dividing by fractions, we want to get rid of this extra denominator, right? So we can multiply by the reciprocal. So therefore, this gives me 1 over x squared over 1, right? X times 1 over x, which just gives me 1 over x squared. Well, 1 over x is trigonometric function. 1 over x is secant. So 1 over x squared would be secant squared. OK, that's option number 1. It's really good with helping you with fractions. And I don't have a problem with you doing that. Step number 2, though, again, kind of does the same way, but just treats everything in terms of sines and cosines. So we could treat this as 1 over cosine. Well, let's use x again. Over cosine. So again, if we were going to think about this in terms of reciprocals, we could multiply this by 1 over cosine of x times 1 over cosine of x. So therefore, we get 1 over cosine squared of x over 1, which is equal to secant squared of x. Right? Nothing wrong with that. Now, the third way, which is where I would eventually like you guys to get to, is the easiest, in my opinion. So if I need to simplify this, guys. Actually, let me write this as blue so you can see what I'm doing. Rather than writing it as 1 over x or 1 over cosine of x, what is the reciprocal of cosine? What's the reciprocal function of cosine? Starts with an s. Secant. Right? So think about this guy. Aren't I really, instead of writing this as 1 over cosine, aren't I really just multiplying this by secant? But again, when I look at this problem, I say, oh, let me get rid of cosine off the denominator. So therefore, I need to multiply by reciprocal, which is secant. So then I would just quickly do, well, then I'm just going to multiply the top and bottom by secant of x over secant of x. Sorry, not over x. Because I know cosine times secant, those are reciprocals, so that goes to 1. So therefore, my answer is just secant squared of x. Pretty quick, pretty fast. Probably can do that in your head eventually. You're not there yet. You guys need to practice. If you want to practice this way, fine. If you want to practice that way, fine. Just keep. It's going to take some practice. But guess what? By doing this practice, just imagine how far you're going to be ahead of the other students.